Welcome back to Jennifer Broussard Art. Today we're going to paint September duck. It's actually a Canada goose looking at an apple tree because apples are ripe in September in North America. I teach beginner mixing in this series. I have one duck for every month. You can find them in my YouTube playlists, and you can also find them on my Patreon channel where you can find the outline for free. I'm going to use my normal 3 primary colors by M. Graham: Quinacridone Rose, Nickel Azo Yellow, and Phthalocyanine Blue. I have my design traced on my Arches 8x8 cold press block, and I am ready to get started. First, I'm going to wet the duck's body. I'm going to go right over the wing. I'm going to go over this too. I'm going to leave these tail feathers dry so that when it comes to that, I don't have any soft lines. Okay, while that absorbs, I'm going to make a gray and a brown. And they both start with orange. So I'm going to get some yellow and make an orange here. And this will be my brown, unless it turns gray. A little more blue. So I like to make an orange and then add blue until it turns brown. Unless I have too much yellow in the mix, it'll turn green. So I'm going to get a little more red, a little more blue, a little more yellow, starting to turn brown right here. It's a little bit difficult to mix in light value. A lot of times you have to just go for it with the dark value and then lighten that. So I like that color. That looks a lot like what's on this goose. So I'm going to go with that and then adjust as needed. I'll go ahead and make the gray over here. So I'll make an orange. And then add blue. Now, if I added more blue to that, I would get a gray. There's a purpley gray. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow, a little bit more yellow. I think it needs more blue. Oh, not too much blue. That might actually have been perfect. There, now we have a gray. Okay, and this is perfectly absorbed. It's a little bit wet over here, a little bit damp over there. Perfect. And I say perfect because now we can work with our damp brush dipped into some paint and put it on here and it won't go crazy. So I'm going to start with a little bit of gray and just swipe it back and forth across the duck. I should say goose. The bottom of it has more shadow, so we're going to put a little bit extra there. And I'm going to come out here and do these. And I left teeny little bits of white. I'm going to get some of the brown. I'm going to try to use it before it all turns into one color. Put a little bit of brown on the wing. It's okay if it bleeds out beyond the border. This is just our first layer. Now I'm going to get a little more gray and put it on here. This is a little section of defined feathers. Okay. I'm going to make a black. So I'm going to get a lot of blue, a lot of red. Now we have that really dark purple. Going to add a little bit of yellow, and it will probably get dulled down to a nice dark, dark blue. And do I dare add a teeny bit more yellow? A little bit more yellow. A little more blue. Now it's a little bit green, so a little more red. This sometimes just happens. You just have to go with it. A little more yellow. I'm going to call it good. And I'm going to now do the duck's face. I am going to leave a little circle right here for the eye. I'm going to go ahead and go all down the neck. I'm going to let some of it touch and leave a little bit of white showing. And I'm going to just take some of this. I have a clean down brush. I'm going to take some of this over onto the beak. I am barely touching the paper. I'm more scooting it along than I am painting. Okay, I'm going to smooth out that head. Okay, that's good first layer. And I'm going to put a little bit of this light gray on the legs. And some of this. Okay, that's a pretty good first layer on the goose. Now I'm going to get a bigger brush. This is a number 10. And I am going to add, I'm just going to put all this together. It seems to want to go together anyway. I'm going to add more red to it. And more yellow. I'm trying to get sort of a warm brown for the first layer of this tree trunk. Trying to get sort of a burnt sienna color, and I think we've got it right there. I'm going to go ahead and just fill in the trunk. Okay, so the bottom and the top are similar in the way they're finished. I'm going to go ahead and add some of these branches. The lines are the branches, and they're kind of peeking through the greenery. And we can add more once we have the green on. I just wanted to have them on here as sort of a guide so that we don't forget to leave any white space for them to show through. And now on here I'm going to add some of this darker color. I'm just going to put it all together, and then on the wet paper I'm going to put some kind of bark texture. I'm going to get a little more yellow and get this sort of yellowy brown and put that in here. I'm going to get just some clear water and drag my brush. Now we're getting some variation. That was more red, and that's okay to put that on there because then you can always mix on the paper. And that's something I don't think I've done with you guys in this series. So you put on the red, you put on the blue, so there's like blue in the tree trunk, so I'm going to go over it with red. And now we have a darker layer right there. Just going to lift a little bit. Okay, now when that dries, we can add some more detail. I dried it with my dryer. Now I'm going to make a very dark black. I'm going to start with blue. At least I'm going to try to make it very dark. The more you have to adjust the colors, the more water you introduce into the puddle, and then the harder it is to get it back to a very, very dark black. I'm going to a bunch of red and mix it with that. And I am dabbing my brush off onto this t-shirt to get all the extra water out. I'm going to add a little yellow to this. And that is very green. So the opposite the color wheel from green is red. A little more red. And that's neutralizing the green. That is a good black. Okay, I'm going to use that on the neck. I'm going to do some little flicks here for the feathers. I'm going to do a squiggly line there for the beak. Okay, my white patch is shrinking with each pass. It'll still look okay. Okay, I'm going to make these feathers a little darker, but I'm not going to cover all of that color. I'm going to just dab my water in my brush with pigment on it into the water. I just got a drop, and I'm going to go over this. And now on here, I'm going to wet this part. And I'm going to add some brown. I'm going to take some of this and put it over here and turn it brown with some yellow and red. So on your plate, you can go back and forth between the colors just by adding and subtracting colors. So I'm going to take this brown, maybe I needed a little more blue in that, just to cool it. And now this is damp and my brush is damp, and I'm just gonna put a little bit of brown over most of it and just let it do its thing. I'm going to go right over the top of that. Okay. Now I'm going to go on here and add some more defined feathers. It's still a little bit too wet, so I'm just going to have to wait until it's dry. So I think I can work on the legs. I'm going to get my number 2. I need a smaller brush for this. This back leg is darker than the front leg because it's in shadow. So I'm just going to paint it. And then this one has a little shadow on the back of it. I'm going to rinse out my brush and dab it on the t-shirt and then rub that along the length of that, and it will soften the line. I'm going to get a dark color on the heel and then on that toe. And I'm going to soften it with a damp brush. And then I'm going to try to define this toe. I'm going to soften that. Just make it a little darker. I'm going to lift a little bit because I don't want it that dark. I'm going to get a tiny bit and I'm going to make little wrinkles. Okay, I'm going to dry it. I'm going to do some dry brush on the tree, and I got out an older brush that I have. I don't want to do dry brush with a good silver black velvet or something because it'll make all the hairs on the edge eventually crinkle and come off of the belly of the brush. So I have a damp brush. I did wet it, and I got most of the water out onto that t-shirt, and I'm going to roll it around into this semi-wet, semi-dry pigment, and I'm going to wick it, and I'm just going to drag it along for bark. And then I can take some of that pigment on the tip and drag it along and still have dry brush. You can do dry brush in those two ways, on the tip or on the belly. And now I'm going to do the greenery. You know what? I'm not going to mix green yet. I'm going to wait until I'm done with these colors and then wipe them off and then make green. So I'm going to finish the goose first. I'm going to just wet this again, this light area. I'm going to show you how to do a wet and wet shadow. So I'm going right up to the wing with the water, and I'm not going over the wing. I'm just going under the wing, right up to the line. I'm going to finish getting the body wet. And now I'm going to take some of this gray and water it down a little bit. And you do need water on your brush for this. Not dripping wet, but not just damp either. And now I'm going to go right underneath on the wet part right next to the wing. And that's how you do a wet and wet shadow. It gives it a little contour. Did I wet this? I don't think I wet that. I'm gonna wet this and do the same thing. I think I have too much water. There we go. And then if it went too far, you can get your damp brush. I whipped it off onto the paper towel, and you can see there's barely any water in it. And you just scoop it away. A damp brush is going to absorb extra water. Now this is still damp, so I'm going to take some of this and kind of go across again. Give it a little bit of feather texture. And it will help make it look round. Put a little bit more shadow down here. And the other way to make it blend is to put it on the dry paper and then take your damp brush and drag it. I'm going to put a little brown in here. Okay, it looks kind of like just a chaotic little feather texture, which is exactly what we wanted. And I'm going to work on this a little more. I'm going to add a little bit of blue to this brown. A little more red. Okay, now I'm going to just add some of that to these brown splotches and mimic some more feathers. It's a little like dry brush because I don't really have much water in my brush at all. I'm going to go right over that gap. There. And now I think I can just lift off of this tail to get a little more definition in here. So I just have my number 2 and I have clean water and I'm dragging it, going back and forth. This one little lesson is teaching you a lot. And then another way to remove is to use an eradicator brush. This is a Rosemary & Co. small eradicator brush, and it's got a rectangle shaped set of bristles. So you get it in the water and it acts like an eraser. Get a little more water and then you just dab it up. You can also use it to clean up edges like right here. And dab. This edge right here I don't like. It's really good at getting pencil off too. There. I've had this brush for about 5 years. And I just ordered 2 more. That should last me 10 years. Now I'm going to take my number 10 and I'm going to make a green. So I'm going to get some yellow, put it over here. It is okay if it mixes with other colors on your plate. I'm going to get blue and put it here. And to this petal, I'm going to mix in all of this stuff that's over here. And mix in all of that. It's a very weak green. I'm going to add more yellow to it. More blue. And then to this one, I'm going to just do that. To this one, I'll add blue. And we have like a green, spring green. So a brand new green and a spring green are going to go into this tree. So I'm just going to do this. Just using the belly of my brush in different directions to put some foliage on the tree. And I'm starting with the lighter color first. I'm going to go right over the branches, especially in the gaps. Get in those gaps where we went branch, gap, branch. So right there. But watch out for the apples. Get some of this in the green, make it a little darker so we can get down inside that tree and get some darker shadow in there. And then out here, you can try a little dry brush. Just a tap, just a little tapping. Is that pretty? And then you can also tap on some water, and it will force some backgrounds and give your tree some more texture. Now when that's dry, we'll do the apples. Just going to fix up the little beak, taking my number 2 again. I'm going to put a little bit of a tip and go right underneath the beak with it. Then I'm going to add a little nostril. I'm going to leave that eye just like it is. I think it's, well, do what you want. I'm going to just add a tiny bit of dark right there. And now while we're waiting for that to dry, and look what it's doing. Look what the water drops are doing. I love that. I'm going to take this color and add a little bit of the gray to it. And I'm going to come down here. Sorry. And I'm going to vary that. I'm going to add a little green to that. Little yellow. The yellow just brings it right to life. A little more gray for the shadow. Going around the feet. And then if you want to do more to this, you can. You can add grasses and blue sky, whatever you want. I'm going to add a little bit of salt to this ground. It's just a little too blah. Maybe there's some sparkles in there in the shadow. Okay, I'm going to let everything do its magic, and then we'll be back to do the apples. While this is working its magic, I'm going to make an orangey red, and I'm going to make a brown so I can finish the branches. So I'm getting a lot of this yellow reconstituted. I'm going to spread it over here because I'm going to have 2 petals. More water. So this is going to be the red apples. The quinacridone rose is more of a pink. So to make it red, you just have to add a little bit of yellow. And this made a really nice orange. So I'm going to add more red to it, or pink to it. And now we have a really pretty apple red. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing over here. But I'm going to add a little blue to it to brown it up. Oh, and that worked perfect. Where was that when we wanted it in the beginning? Okay, I'm going to add more branches. This isn't quite totally dry, but it should be fine. Just going to darken up some of these branches. Some of them I missed. Go right through the white gaps. Don't overthink it, just make some letter Y's. Backwards and forwards. You can add as many as you want. I'm going to add some of this to the trunk. Just squiggle it back and forth. Okay, let's do the apples. I'm not going to worry about details like some of the apples are hidden by the foliage. I'm just going to put the apples on. Again, let's not overthink. Let's see, let's put one here. Over here. Some littler ones because they're maybe in the back of the tree. And something is further away, it looks smaller. Get some of this brown, and I'm going to put it some stems. They don't all have them. Maybe the ones that are hanging from the white, like if they have white above them. Or not, doesn't matter. This one needs one. That branch can come out a little more, we can put a little stem. I think I want to put an apple right here. Very tempting to the goose. And we're all done. You learned a lot with this color mixing and with some beginner techniques. And I hope you found it informative and that you enjoyed the tutorial.